In this first lecture, I wish to follow up briefly on the final paragraph in Chapter 5 of Hine and Shattuck, page 80, where they note that African American Episcopalians after the Civil War did not find harmony in the denomination. And then Hine and Shattuck's continuation of that discussion in Chapter 6 on pages 101 through 104, where they introduced Crummell and Cooper, about whom you have written. Let me begin by drawing your attention to the fact that Gardner Shattuck has written extensively about race issues in the Episcopal Church. I cannot commend highly enough his 2000 University of Kentucky Press book, Episcopalians and Race, From Civil War to Civil Rights. It's in paperback now and not too expensive if you wish to follow the longer, detailed argument that I'll be presenting briefly today. Throughout this course thus far, you've heard me use the word tension a lot, and I'm about to introduce it once again. After the Civil War, virtually all Episcopalians accepted the biblical dictum from the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 26, that God has made of one blood all nations of human beings. God has made of one blood all nations of human beings. Episcopalians accepted that principle in theory, at least. But there's a tension between what they accepted in theory and what they did by way of practical application, because we see after the Civil War that there's a great deal that brings church people into conflict over race. As Hine and Shattuck note, vast numbers of African Americans fled the white-dominated Episcopal Church after the Emancipation of 1865. They joined congregations led by African American preachers. The African Methodist Episcopal Church, the African Methodist Zion Church, and the Black Baptist Church experienced astounding growth almost overnight. African Americans saw that the creation of independent Baptist and Methodist churches represented their best opportunity to achieve freedom from the values of their former masters. Having been related to the galleries and treated as mere observers in a biracial church prior to their emancipation, ex-slaves welcomed the chance to escape the restrictions that whites had in organizing their congregations and ordaining pastors who understood their true spiritual needs. At first, the Episcopal Church did very little to staunch the hemorrhaging of African American members. Rather, they turned their most immediate attention to the task of healing the division that had occurred between white Episcopalians during the Civil War. The preoccupation of the First General Convention after the war in Philadelphia in 1865 was to deal with the reintegrating of Protestant Episcopal Church in the Confederate States of America and the bishop that they had consecrated irregularly. Even though the convention established the Protestant Episcopal Freedmen's Commission and gave it a mandate to win back African Americans who had deserted the Episcopal Church, the attitudes that informed its creation were fundamentally racist and paternalistic. Post-Civil War Episcopalians, for the most part, considered African Americans to be an ignorant and debased race. Post-Civil War Episcopalians, for the most part, considered the black preachers to whom their members had fled to be ignorant and grossly immoral, ones who widened the gulf between the races and who carried African Americans inexorably beyond the reach of white church people. Post-Civil War Episcopalians, for the most part, thought the black community needed the sympathetic aid of whites to recover from the damaging effects of emancipation. African Americans were inferior and could only be carried up to the superior sphere by whites. The black race needed to be uplifted. That paternalistic language suffused the Episcopal Church in the post-Civil War era. Characterizations of their worship were also ones which said that it was wild and inappropriate revelry, that black preachers were poor equipped to be ministers, that their churches were centers really for political organizing that was opposed to white interests. Those were virtually articles of faith in all white denominations, not just the Episcopal Church, all white denominations in the late 1860s. And so it's little wonder that the Episcopal Church not only lost membership initially, but failed to gain traction with emancipated African Americans. I'm already pushing into a longer time than I expected, so I'm going to stop here and continue with this with part 2.